Honourable Speaker, we are what we eat. We are what we eat. Are we eating to live or we're eating to die? If we do not actually address the way we distribute our food, the way we handle our food, the way we grow our food, then we're obviously not doing the right thing for the citizens, because we eat, we are eating all the time. In fact, I think we start off with breakfast, we have 10 o'clock tea, we have 4 o'clock, we have lunch, we have 4 o'clock tea, we have dinner, we have midnight snacks, morning glory. So we're eating, but are we eating to live? And whether we're eating to live depends on how we handle our food. It is such a shame that we can actually trace our exports. We have traceability of our exports from wherever they were grown all the way to when they reach their destination in Europe. But when it comes to our markets, like when you go to Ukulima market, you cannot tell where the sukuma wiki came from. It could have actually been grown on a sewer just down the road. So we have a problem on how we handle our food. I think we also need definitions of food and feed. And I believe that this amendment bill by the Senate has actually addressed definitions, key definitions that are necessary. What is important is that we also transport. When the chair of health was talking about the transportation of food, I mean, if we transport the food and it's containing a lot of pollution on its way to the destination, to the market, then obviously whatever the person is going to get is also not going to be able to be healthy and serve them well. But while we talk about food, we have to understand the key component, right, and it should never be left out, the key component in our food is actually the fertilizers that we use, the minerals that we restore into our soils, the fortification that we put, and also the water that we use to cook the food. You can have an amazing cabbage, but if the water is contaminated, the cabbage will not serve the person. We are told today that half of the cancers that we have in this world are actually food related. So if we actually start managing how we grow our food, how we fertilize our food, our agricultural products, how we transport our food, how we cook our food, how we store our food. Now, food can also be stored and at the same time become an asset for tomorrow. We haven't reached that point yet where we're actually able to store our food in a hygiene manner. We end up with storing of maize, and then we end up with aflatoxin. So I think we need to, as a country, in the devolved system, we need to ensure that we look at food, because it's a big part of our economy. It's a big part of our well-being. It's a big part of our health. And if we manage our food, and we manage it in terms of security, we manage it in terms of transportation, we manage it in terms of traceability, we manage it in terms of how we grow it, how we cook it, how we transport it, how we consume it. Because there's also a lot of science that talk about the order in which you eat your food. I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of food and nutrition, and I really stand here to support, because every step in the right direction, it might not give us everything that we want, and I believe that the Senate and the National Assembly can sit together, form a committee and address it. But I think we need proper legislation when it comes to how we handle our food, how we grow our food, how we transport our food, how we serve our food. And while we're looking at food, we also have to make sure that our water has to be, clean and not contaminated. Because if it is contaminated, the food can be good, but then we will end up back to square one. So I stand here and I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We don't have any other interest in this. I will have to call, yes, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Moro.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to the Food and Feed Safety Control Bill of 2023, Bill number 21 of 2023. Honourable Speaker, this bill provides several provisions, being one, providing a regulatory framework in which it establishes a comprehensive system to regulate food and safety that cover all aspects of food chain from production all the way to consumption. Honourable Speaker, this bill also provides for Food and Feed Safety Authority, and this would be an authority that will be mandated to check, to do inspections, to do enforcements, and do a setting of standards for the quality of food, Honorable Speaker. This bill also provides for safety standards, for licensing and registration, and also, most importantly, for inspection and enforcement, Honorable Speaker. This bill, Honorable Speaker, is very critical for consumer protection. The bill will emphasize the protection of consumers by ensuring that food and feed products in the market are safe and of high quality. And this includes, Honorable Speaker, the provisions for proper labeling to provide consumers with adequate information about the products they purchase, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, at the time when there has been a lot of uptake of processed foods, Honorable Speaker, it is very important that these foods are clearly labeled to show what the content of those foods are, whether it is the carbohydrates content or proteins and all those other nutrients that those foods could have, so that we ensure that our population is fed not just on the right foods, but also on the correct quantities of the particular nutrients that should be sought on this food, Honorable Speaker. And not just for food for human consumption, but also for feeds, Honorable Speaker. As a poultry and a dairy farmer, Honorable Speaker, one of the challenges that we get in dairy and poultry farming is getting the correct quality of feeds. Honorable Speaker, you are sold feeds that that are supposed to increase milk production because of particular content that they're supposed to have, whether it is the protein content, Honorable Speaker, only for you to feed your cows and realize that the production is not even improving, because the content that is said to contain on those feeds is actually false, Honorable Speaker. Different animals would consume, if, for example, if you talk about poultry farming, Honorable Speaker, when the chicks are small, then they fed a particular diet of food. Then as they grow into 6 weeks, then you change the diet for those chickens, Honorable Speaker. When they start laying, their diet is different. If you're producing either laying chicken or broilers, Honorable Speaker, the diet is different. And therefore, it is very important that we have an authority that checks the quality of this, so that our farmers can be certain that the feeds that they're going to give to their animals, Honorable Speaker, have actually the right quality, Honorable Speaker. This law, Honorable Speaker, if passed into law, will strengthen Kenya's food safety management systems, and will provide a legal foundation for ensuring that food and feed products meet international safety standards. And this will benefit, Honorable Speaker, consumers. This will benefit businesses, and this will also benefit Kenya's position in global agriculture, Honorable Speaker. There has been a global push, Honorable Speaker, to have not just countries be able to produce food for their population, but also for the quality of this food, Honorable Speaker. If you check, especially in our slums, Honorable Speaker, you find stunted growth in our children. And this stunted growth, Honorable Speaker, is because the food that they eat do not contain the required level of nutrients for their growth, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, in those also slums, Honorable Speaker, you find more prevalence of diseases, because the immunity of those people is less, because the food that they feed on, Honorable Speaker, the coatings is not checked. The ingredients that they say that this probably contains this amount of fat or this amount of protein is not accurate, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I congratulate the Senate for this bill and support it and the good work that has been done by the committee on this, and hope that we are going to not just produce enough food for our people and for our animals, but also ensure we have quality food for our people and for our population. That I beg support, Honorable Speaker.
There being no, Madam Sabina Chege, where is she? Proceed. Give her the mic, please. What is happening or what's not happening?
I can move to this one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute on this bill. First and foremost, I want to really thank the chair, Mr. Speaker, because this bill, it has been a long journey. The bill was brought by Honorable Bukose some time back in the 11th Parliament, and then Mr. Speaker, 12th Parliament I was the chair of Committee on Health. We handled the bill. We could not get consensus between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture. And I recall, Mr. Speaker, together with the Honorable Pukose, we actually took a trip to go and benchmark and see how food is regulated for the benefit of the consumers, Mr. Speaker, in the US. And we actually benchmarked and saw the Food and Drug Authority in the US, how they are able to regulate the food product. And so I'm one happy person, Mr. Speaker, if this bill finally has gotten into this level, and I support it fully. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is the only country where we allow people either to feed the animals with different products that may be harmful to the consumers. And then finally, we are dealing with diseases like cancer, and we are not very sure where they have come from, or how to handle it, Mr. Speaker. When food is mishandled, Mr. Speaker, when labeling of this food is not done properly, we find people saying this is organic product, and actually the product is not organic. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important. We, even with the kind of the diabetes, the issue of obesity that has come in this country, that Kenyans need to know what exactly you are putting in your mouth, what percentage of each and every nutrient that is in that product, without lying to the Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, and especially with the many people who really want even to cut weight, Mr. Speaker, there have been a lot of products that are being sold with all sorts of names, with all sorts of promises. And at the end of the day, these people are not accountable to anybody. And so I'm very happy, Mr. Speaker, that we have gotten to this level. And Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the Ministry of Agriculture, it is necessary, Mr. Speaker, that the point of regulating what goes into our animals. Mr. Speaker, we visited, I remember, one of the poultry farms where we saw even the eggs, before they get into the market, there are some standards, Mr. Speaker, that must be adhered to. And this is in protection of what you give. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, you have our farmers, they milk the cow had just been given some medication, and then this milk is rushed to the market. And with that, then it also becomes harmful to the people who will be the consumers. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy, I support this bill, and I'm hoping then with this kind of regulation, Mr. Speaker, we will reduce some of the diseases that are already within the Kenyan people, and we can be able to save more lives. And above all, we can also be able to save, Mr. Speaker, on the health budget. Because sometimes when somebody gets sick, you have consumed something that is not right, going to the hospital, it ends up being very, very expensive, coming out of pocket, or even the government, Mr. Speaker, through different initiatives that the government offers to its people. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful, and Honorable Pukose, I am very happy today that this bill has gotten to this, and I support. Thank you.
There is the Honorable Member for Kisauni. Where is he? Proceed.